Hey everyone, it's October 26th, and we are back with our daily push talk. Today we have a very interesting story, interesting guest with us. We have Mr. Jimmy Hill. Mr. Jimmy Hill, how you doing today, man?
How you doing? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. It's a tough subject today, so I think this week, in fact, we got a few tough subjects coming up this week, but this one is tough. So I want you to start by telling everybody about your situation with your son, Mr. Jimmy Atchison.
My son Jimmy Atchison's 21 years old, who had his future, dreams, and hope shattered in just a few moments. My son Jimmy Atchison, he was a jokester, a prankster, and we loved to have him around the home, and he loved his kids. He had two kids, would never get to see their father again. His grandmother Elizabeth Ann Atchison, who he promised to get a house to. He loved music. Who he promised to get a house to. She died earlier this year, holding on as much as she can in this fight for justice. So, my son, you can be mad at him one minute and you be laughing at him one minute. That's just how silly he was. But we know he wasn't a violent type of person that was portrayed by the news media and Atlanta police. Son Kim. My son Jim Atchison, on January the 22nd, 2019, my son Jimmy Atchison was unarmed and surrendering, yet he was shot and killed by former Atlanta police officer Son Kim on the assumption of a bogus armed robbery warrant, in which a witness came forward and stated that there was no armed robbery. This journey has been full of obstacles and hurdles and weariness and a lot of pain. A lot of emptiness. It's been very full of heartaches, but that God has given us the strength, and He's given us the guidance and endurance to continue to move forward in this situation. I have to give all credit to God, because if it wasn't for His mercy and grace, we'll be lost. We don't know where we'll be.
So one of the things that I really want to hit on is that we know that gun violence across the market has gone up in the city of Atlanta,
Yes.
From police gun violence to just regular gang gun violence, right? I know we just recently did an event with Shannon Jones, Reverend Shannon Jones, where we actually marched through the Pittsburgh area, kind of praying for the community.
Yes.
But your son was killed by an actual officer, in which, from what I understand from the report that you have, which is very detailed, like they had an arrest warrant, they went to try to arrest him in the apartment. He fled the scene, but when they found him, he was in a closet, unarmed, in his underwear.
And the boxers, yes.
His boxers. And did the police ever give you a reason for why they felt like they needed to shoot him? If he was unarmed in the closet, no place really for him to go, and there was how many officers in the room at the time?
4 officers in the room with weapons drawn, not tasers, with guns drawn.
Right.
Yeah. So and the thing that what made me hard to believe is this officer Son Kim, who already had a history of being overly aggressive in certain situations, in which he shot at approaching Rottweilers 8 times, while officers was in view and commanding him to stop, and bits of shrapnel hit several of the officers. So there have been a number of complaints against him. So I understand, why was he in charge of a task force? Why was he in charge of a task force? I just can't understand. And he lied, saying my son had a history. First of all, the shooting, according to the Public Integrity Union of the District Attorney Office, on January the 22nd of my son Jimmy Atchison, the shooting was not justified, and Son Kim should be indicted for murder. That's the report according to the Public Integrity Union of the Fulton County District Attorney Office. This officer lied, stating that my son had a history of violence. He lied to his fellow officers, lied to say my son had a history of violence against police officers, and according to the Public Integrity Union again, of the Fulton County District Attorney Office, my son had a misdemeanor against police officers, and that was 2018, August 17, 2018, and said the said accuser was not harmed in any kind of way. And according to the report of the Public Integrity Union, my son has no other history of violence against police officers.
So, I mean, I know we talked about it earlier today. So that was under one of the issues you've been having is that was under the past DA, DA Paul.
Yes, yes.
Right? And I know we now have, you guys now have a new DA in Fulton County, DA Fannie Willis. What has been the relationship you've had with her compared to the relationship you had with the previous DA?
It's really not. It really hasn't been a relationship because our first meeting with Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis, after we spoke, introduced ourselves. She introduced us to her team members. The first thing came out of her mouth was, "I done got rid of Paul Howard whole staff," and we were looking puzzled, like, what does that have to do with this meeting? And then she stated the fact that, "I don't like the fact that your son pushed the children under the bed before he jumped out the window. He put the children on the bed to get them out of harm's way." And not one time during the meeting, and several times she said over and over, "My decision is gonna be my decision. Y'all can like it or not." So we was like, "What is going on?" You know, and I asked, I said, "What is this meeting? Ain't this meeting supposed to be about Son Kim and trying to get him indicted? You know, to be presented to a grand jury?" And we spoke with her some more, but nothing came out of the meeting. Nothing came out of me because she was there to display her arrogance. She was just there to display her arrogance, and that's mainly no. You know, we weren't there to talk about Paul Howard. This is the same Paul Howard who you got on the news and spoke about years ago, that how you appreciated working for the DA. But now it's another story. So she was letting us know at that meeting that she's pro-police and that she really wasn't interested, according to my thoughts, that she really wasn't interested in trying to indict Son Kim. Like she was looking for a way out, looking for an excuse. And that's all it was, excuse, because like I said, one time she did not mention it. And you had this same report, this same book that I have right here in front of you. She had this same book. And yet she refuses to do nothing. And we haven't met with her. I think it's been about 6 months. We haven't met with her anymore. We haven't met no more with her because even our lawyer said she's baffled. She's confused. Our lawyer, Tanya Miller, she's baffled. She don't know what to think or what's going on. So my thing is, I think we have to continue to apply pressure because we're not the type of family who's going to give up. You know, this man took my life, my son's life, and he took it unnecessarily and unjustifiable. And ain't no way you can justify the shooting of my son, Jimmy Ashton. He refused to call SWAT when the subject is barricaded. He violated FBI policy. Let me get this right first. First, he refused to call SWAT. And in most cases, SWAT is called when the subject is barricaded. That was the operational plan, to call SWAT. But he took his battles. Y'all would have been like that. He took matters into his own hand, placed himself above the law, and became my son, judge, jury, and executioner. And it's something I have to mention. 22 days later, after my son was murdered, there was a white dentist in Brookhaven. Had a 10-hour standoff. And they issued a warrant for him shooting at his wife. 10-hour standoff. They didn't even give my son 10 seconds. They called SWAT. Proper procedure was used. They called SWAT. Proper protocol was used. They sent in a robot. They sent in flashbangs. And they sent in tear gas. Then the FBI, SWAT entered, and there was a tussle. This man was in a small room like my son was, with a room full of ammunition. And guess what? They brought him out without a scratch. But they brought my son Jimmy Ashton out in a body bag. So this had been very painful because this officer, they violated. They didn't have a warrant for the apartment. They also violated because in Atlanta Police Department is supposed to wear their body camera at all times when it comes to dealing with a suspect or dealing with a situation. This officer did not have on a body cam. So it was a number of violations. Like I said, not only his human and civil rights. Now, my son had a name, my son had an identity, and it's like he just took it away.
Wow. You know, as I was listening to you, when the procedure that, now you said that in reading that Officer Kim did not follow procedure or policy and procedure. Can you tell us what has taken place with him since then?
Son Kim, let me add this right here. like I said, I couldn't understand how he was able to be in charge of a task force, any type of task force. He another violation. He entered a funeral looking for a suspect, and he, without identifying themselves, he drew down on everybody. They drew their weapons on everybody at the funeral. And all this is according to, it's not my statement, according to the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. Son Ken right now is doing federal work, civilian work for the federal government. After much pressure from Atlanta Mayor Keisha Bottom gave him the option to be fired or resign after much pressure. And he resigned, and now he's doing civilian work for the federal government.
The same federal government that's still investigating him.
The same federal government that's supposed to be investigating. You know, it seemed like everybody wanted this case swept under the rug, going through any length necessary to protect this case. Even Atlanta, the city of Atlanta, and because it seemed like Atlanta is more about relationships and scratching each other back and watching each other back. And that's what's so hurtful. Like, my son's life don't mean nothing. Like, it didn't mean nothing. And I've been disappointed. With the church, because the church, who at one time was our pillar, who we leaned to for support and everything. It seemed like pastors are being quiet. Black entertainment, even the community has to be awakened to this thing. And you know, it just time enough is enough. Wrong is wrong, no matter who says it or who does it. And the whole city of Atlanta, America has been wrong in this situation when it comes to the murder of my son, Jimmy S. It's about accountability. Nobody wants to hold one another accountable.
So let me ask you a question. Like, one of the things that's very interesting to me is that we depend on our police to be a place of refuge, a place of trust. This situation, what has it done to you when it comes to you and the way you trust? Now you trust law enforcement in general. I know just outside of APD, how do you trust law enforcement in general at this point?
It's hard. You know, I have a cousin who's been a law officer. I've been growing up in East Lake Meadows. I counted numerous of law officers. Some were good, some were bad apples. Mm-hmm. It's hard to trust. It is hard to trust because even as I look at the situation when I was just explaining that I think in name about the situation in Milwaukee where this officer shot he shot this man in front of his children. It seemed like it's to place fear, and to place fear and terrorism at an early age and put fear into our children. You know, the police are supposed to be there to protect us and to serve, not destroy us, not bring forth destruction, and not cause death. We shouldn't be afraid of the police. We done had, growing up in East Lake Meadows, we had police used to get out their car in the 70s and walk and talk with us. You know, if things were being did on the street, they look, man, y'all know y'all can't do that. You know, they would tell the older guys, and it was a level of respect shown for them. Now it seems like police just don't give a damn now. It's just like so much racism and hatred toward. I have to be real and say Black Americans, because it's like, you know, people talk about, my condolences to the Asian community. People talk about stop Asian hate. What about stop Black hate? What about stop all this killing and remaining silent and ignoring and turning their backs to this situation where all these young Black boys getting killed, innocent young Black men and Black women, even our Black children, from I think Tamara Rice 12 to Katherine Johnson 92. It's always the excuse. When will it stop? When is enough enough? When will we have the faith and courage to come together to be able to say with one voice, on one accord, and say enough is enough?
I tell you, it's, you know, when it comes to law enforcement, like you said, you have the good and you have the bad when it comes to law enforcement. And like you, I've come in contact with them, have family members and friends that are in law enforcement, and you're absolutely right. The things that have taken place over the last several decades even has put us in a position where trust in the system, trust in law enforcement really isn't there anymore. um, they're supposed to serve and protect, but you would think that when you watch on the news the way they handle situations, one group of people versus another group of people, and see the disparaging, the difference between the two and how they go about handling situations. It's very unfortunate that it even comes down to that. But again, it's the system that needs to be fixed. Families are, losing their children left and right nowadays, whether it be through the hands of the police or black on black crime. And the thing that, that we have to start asking ourselves the question about, not only about law enforcement, but about guns themselves playing a part in the situation, and how when force is deemed necessary, and then we maybe there's been getting guns off the streets, or making it more difficult for people, just an average person, to be able to obtain one. And definitely looking at psych evaluations when it comes to police as well. So, it's very unfortunate, and I definitely know your pain, as I am also a parent of a child who was killed, via gun violence, and so I definitely understand where you're coming from with all of that. Man, it's not easy. And so how have you been able to cope and manage through all of this?
Well, my family, just trying to beat up on my family and continue to fight. My son's mother, Cynthia Atchison, this has took a tremendous amount of pain to where, her peace was taken away. She done carried this for 9 long months. Her peace, all of a sudden, just seeing it when his eyes were open, and yet somebody else closed his eyes. So her peace was taken away. Her peace was taken away. She's went through so much, man. It's like I want to cry right now. So much of what she's been going through. Discouragement, almost to a depressed state. To, I was talking to her this morning. I told her I was on my way to this interview, and she was like, "Just keep fighting. Just keep fighting." She said, "I'm gonna get back out there." But she's getting what she can't take it, because once we started doing the talking about it and try to have interviews, she had to get up and leave. And it's sisters. You have sisters by his mother, and you got sisters and one brother by on my side of the family, and it's like destroyed them. Like it took some a year and a half, 2 years to even come out for a protest, because they didn't want to accept the fact that he was dead, that he wasn't coming back. And there's one who still, she won't get involved. I love Missy to death. She won't get involved because it pained her so much. They were just a very close family, especially on their mother's side. And on my side, my son and my other daughters, it bothered them very bad, because my son Jimmy was like a link. He was me with my other sons, and we didn't even know it. And he was the bridge that kept our family together. Because when you have these families and you have kids by different mothers, it always be a lot of confrontation. But he was the bridge. He was the bridge, and I don't mention this too much, but I promised his grandmother, I promised Cent, and I promised my other son Curtis. He got murdered. 18-year-old son got murdered in 2012, and the two guys got life in 30 and life in 10, and God gave us the strength to fight, and God really got given me the endurance. So I had to try to be there for them, because they were very close, and it bothered him when Curtis got killed. And then to see it happen to him, and it's just like, who is trying to hold people accountable? It's time to hold Fulton County family with us accountable. It's time to break up this system. remaining silent. It's time for, when Nathan the prophet had to go and speak to King David and tell him about the wrongness that he was doing and the situation. And King David repented. So I ask everybody today, is there any more Nathans out here that have the faith and courage to challenge this system? Even Jesus, when we come to righteous anger, even Jesus flipped over the tables in the temple. Is anybody in Atlanta leadership about dignity and character and integrity and principle? It seems like we don't got away from those things. It's time to come together and stand on truth and justice. Everybody, I guess people are afraid of repercussions. Atlanta has become, leadership has become so selfish and commercial to the point to where everybody just thinking about themselves. These lives matter. My son Jimmy Essen's life matter. When I be out here protesting with these other mothers, when I look in their eyes and see the pain and the emptiness and the loneliness, and some of these mothers are 70, 80 years old and still trying to fight for their son, it's like we are on an island by ourselves fighting. Seems like nobody don't want to step up. Nobody has the courage to step up. Everybody just enjoy themselves. We are in pain. Now, these families are in pain. My family is in pain. I'm in pain. I'm just not showing it right now, but I'm in pain. But I know what I got to do. And I got to have the courage to stand up and continue to speak out against this wicked and injustice system of police brutality and racism.
And I'll just end it by saying this, like, from our perspective, I found out about him on Saturday, literally, when I met you at the One Accord Conference.
Yeah.
And I've done my best today, I'm not, to be honest, to kind of do as much research. But even after you leave today, I commit to us doing more research and finding out and reading through any information you're willing to give us. Because as you stated, we need more. Not only do we need more Nathans, not only do we need more prophets on the scene, but we need more people who have the heart of David, to be able to, when they're in a situation where they have power and they've done wrong with the power they have, they know how to seek forgiveness and repentance.
Amen.
Because we can have prophets speaking all day, but if people are not receptive to the prophet speaking, then it still does no good. And that's the reason why November 2nd and Election Day is so important. We have to vote people who stand for our interests. And I'll continue to remind people that just because, for the black community, just because a person has a black face doesn't mean that they always represent black issues.
Amen.
So we have to just be careful about who we're putting in office. At the same time, we have to be fair enough to hear the side of what's going on, right, from the other side. So, but we commit to doing more research. We commit. That's the reason I wanted to have you on today, because I think that regardless of the situation, the stories are important. Hearing about Mr. Atchison, hearing about the situation and how it played out is extremely important. And I want to make sure that we don't miss that. So we'll continue to work with you. We'll continue to reach out. We'll continue to get his story out.
Thank you so much.
We appreciate you for coming on today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And just a quick note to end. For those who have not had a chance to even check out our One Accord Conference, you can go to our website at www.blackpush.org, or you can go on Spotify, Google Podcasts, you can go on Apple Podcasts, you can go on Ring, and so many other resources that we'll be actually putting our information on today. To hear our podcast, we're super excited about that. Or you can download our app, where you can, on Android or Apple, where you can actually watch any podcast that we have. So we thank, again, Mr. Jimmy Hill for coming and talking about Mr. Jimmy Atchison. And we ask that every family continue to pray for his family, but at the same time continue to pray for all those families who've lost children to gun violence, whether they were black, white, Hispanic, Asian. No child should be a victim of gun violence, whether it's the police or whether it's just in their neighborhood trying to go to school. And that's something that we'll continue to fight against, irregardless. Because we do have other resources that we can use. I remember going and doing a tour of a facility where they trained police officers, and the only two weapons they gave us as an option was a gun or a shotgun. They didn't give me an option to use the taser. They didn't give me an option to use the mace, and I just thought it was increasingly weary, right? That the only two options they have. So we have to train our police officers better. But thank you again for coming on. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back tomorrow